Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
So good to be with you. Good Shabbos. Happy Go Texan Day. It's great to be together to welcome Shabbat together. Before we get started, just a couple of quick requests. Would you please make sure that your cell phones are off so that we can be together for some prayer and learning and togetherness, undistracted by the outside world. While you are doing that, we're going to get this space ready and this evening ready for us to welcome Shabbat together. And we will do it as we do each week with the lighting of the Shabbat candles. So it is a great delight to invite the Bruckner and Mark families to the Bima, whose daughters will be becoming Bat Mitzvah tomorrow, to lead us in the meditation before lighting the candles. The meditation is on page 3 of your prayer books, with the blessing on page 2.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us.
As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives.
Bless all who enter the sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'ad likner shel Shabbat.
We'll make our way to page 20 of our prayer books now to welcome Shabbat with Lecha Dodi. Page 20.
Lecha Dodi Likrat Halav B'nei Shabbat Kabbalat Lecha Dodi Likrat Halav B'nei Shabbat Kabbalat Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Ishmiyanu el hamiuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad Shemu tiferet v'litchila Lecha Dodi Likrat Halav B'nei Shabbat Kabbalat Lecha Dodi Likrat Halav B'nei Shabbat Kabbalat
לקראת שבת ובנך כי מקורך אברהם מראש מקדם נסופך סוף מעשה מה שבאתי לה
Lecha Dodi Likrat Halav B'nei Shabbat Kabbalat Lecha Dodi Likrat Halav B'nei Shabbat Kabbalat
Verse 5.
Toreri, Kiba Orech, Umi Ori, Shir Daveri, Vod Adonai, Alayich Nikla, Lecha Dodi, Likrat Halav, B'nei Shabbat, Kabbalat, Lecha Dodi, Likrat Halav, B'nei Shabbat, Kabbalat.
Verse 9. We welcome Shabbat.
בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ושפות עולה תוך
לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת וקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת וקבלה.
We will remain standing for a few moments, and I will ask you to take just a minute and turn to someone nearby and wish them a Shabbat Shalom. Still standing now, my friends, we turn to page 28 for Baruch Hu, page 28.
Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed, le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la.
Page 33. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch Ata Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
be seated. And it is a pleasure for me to invite Madison Mark to the bima to lead us in Be'ahavta on page 36 of our prayer books.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anohi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha Vishinantam livanecha, vidibarta bam, bishivtecha, bivetecha, uvlechtecha, vaderech, ushochbecha, uvkumecha, ukshartam leot aliadecha, vehayu letotafot beinenecha, uktavtam, Al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzei tietem me'eretz Mitzrayim Lihiot lahem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem.
Page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh.
On page 43 now, this musical meditation on the themes of Hashkivenu that prayer that we offer at this time of night when the sun goes down and the darkness gathers, expressing our hope for companionship and peace and the nearness of others who will support us and hold us up even when it is dark.
Understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Ashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Ashkivenu, Leshalom. Ashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Ashkivenu, Leshalom. Vehamidenu, Shomreinu Lechaim. Ufros aleinu, Sukat Shlomecha. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Leshalom. And understand Eloheinu. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
As we prepare to move into our Amidah together on page 46, it is a delight for me to invite Ali Bruckner to the Bima to lead her congregation in prayer. Page 46, please rise.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdech, Ima'ot, Umevi Geulah Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham Bezrat Sarah. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לה, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. Continue together at the top of page 55. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai Mikadesh HaShabbat. On page 60 now, our prayer for peace. Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atah hu melech adon bechol hashalom. Ki atah hu melech adon bechol hashalom. Shalom shalom Rav tasim leolam. Shalom shalom Rav tasim leIsrael. Etov be'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim
We take a quiet moment now to offer our own individual prayers. Page 253. Each Shabbat brings us an opportunity like this one, the chance for us to turn our thoughts and turn our hearts toward healing and offer a prayer on behalf of those in our circles of family and community who find themselves on this Shabbat in need of healing. This week our congregation offers this prayer on behalf of Florence Berger, Barbara Berkowitz, Bradley Borden, James Brummett, Melba Berman, Jeffrey Feinstein, Buster Feldman, Alan Garber, Don Gorwitz, Don Grobart, Sarah James, Paul Kenberg, Beverly Kovnat, Lawrence Levy, Michael Marcoux, Evelyn Muntz, Liba Reisman, Rebecca Risch, Carol Ross, Marilyn Shapiro, Alex Smoots Thomas, Eugene Wilkenfeld, Roger Williams, Yisrael Moshe ben Ruta Masha, Baila bat Baruch Vuhuda, Shoshana bat Chana, and Chaya Itzel bat Ezer Dvora. We offer this prayer together, page 253.
Mikor Abraham Leimotenu, may the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives
This exercise of turning our hearts to pivot outward toward others is a healthy and valuable skill that we can build. It's not only when there are others who are in need of healing or repair that we do this work, we also do it when there are simchas and celebrations in our community that we want to share and celebrate with people that we share this community with. And so, Jeffrey Bruckner, would you please stand up? Now, Jeffrey, I know that being the middle kid means you never get anything all to yourself. And this weekend, you have to share your 50th birthday with Allie's bat mitzvah. But she's really generous. And so she's giving you this moment that's all yours. So here's the good news. Your upbringing in this congregation has some little-known fringe benefits. You are still entitled to a birthday blessing, even when you have to come to this congregation all the way from New Jersey. So, we are delighted that you're here. We are delighted that this is a weekend of celebration for your family, and I am delighted to offer you a blessing on your birthday, to ask God's blessing on you and those you love, to ask God's nearness to you, to grant you long life and good health, to grant you success in work and personal fulfillment as well, that every day be a joy, that every day bring new delights and new discoveries, and that every day you find something else for which to be grateful, and another example of God's presence in your life and in the world. And we ask God's blessing with words of gratitude. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman haz. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, for giving us life and sustaining us and bringing us to this very joyful day. Amen. Happy birthday. And now, another great simcha for us to celebrate. I want to invite Melanie Candler and Tom Little up to the bima. Melanie and Tom are about to join their lives together under the chuppah. So we have the great joy and privilege to be present for this moment of blessing as they join me before the open ark. Would you please rise? Tom, this way. You are about to join your lives together in the presence of God and in the presence of those who love you and treasure you the most. The two of you lead lives and have built a relationship that's built on true, deep openness. Openness to each other, one heart to the other, one mind to the other, but also with hearts and minds open to the world beyond just the two of you. And you've built within yourselves and within the union that you're creating together an appetite for kindness and gentleness, for sympathy and empathy, to bring more goodness to your work and to your world, to your relationships and to your community. And so as I offer you words of blessing, I also want to add to them my own personal prayer and hope that your marriage, your household, and the life that you will build together will be marked with the same blessings that the two of you strive mightily to bring into the world, to make this a world that's beautiful, a world that's gentle, a world that's kind, and a world that continues to learn and grow each day. So it is a great delight to offer you these words of God's blessing to you. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, may God bless you and keep you. Ye'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha, may the light of God's countenance shine on you and be good to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yisem lecha shalom, may God's presence always remain near to you. May you be blessed with the greatest gifts God gives, the blessings of wholeness and goodness and peace. Amen. Mazel tov. Have you guys stay. You may be seated. And I am delighted to invite Diane Pouchette as a representative of our Board of Trustees to make some presentations to the happy couple.
Melanie and Thomas, it is my pleasure on behalf of the entire congregation to wish you and your family mazel tov on your marriage. In honor of this occasion, I present you with 3 gifts. The congregation would like to have a mezuzah with a kosher scroll in your home to be placed on the doorpost. Each time you pass it, entering and leaving, we hope it will remind you to live your lives by the mitzvot of Judaism. And from our brotherhood, the book on the doorposts of your house, a resource that will help you embrace traditions and blessings as you share your lives together. And from sisterhood, the Sisterhood Cookbook, to add flavor, spice, and sweetness to your life. May God bless you both with a long life together, filled with mutual love, happiness, and respect. Congratulations, and mazel tov again. Thank you.
Melanie, can I give you this? Don't forget the goodies. It's the best part. I love a wedding. I just love a wedding. All right, so friends, just a few quick announcements before we do a little bit of learning together. At the end of our service together this evening, we'll be saying Kiddush and Motzi over challah and wine that have been provided graciously by the Bruckner and Mark families. We're very grateful for your generosity to help our community fulfill these mitzvot and say these blessings. If you picked up a Shabbat handout on your way in, there's a lot of information about some upcoming events in the community. I encourage you to take a look there, as well as in the bulletin and on our website. Just a few quick highlights. Our congregation is heading to Austin on Wednesday, as our congregation's 75th anniversary is recognized with a resolution on the floor of the Texas House of Representatives. It is very exciting, and we would love for you to come with us. There is still room on the bus that's coming from here to the State House, to the Capitol building. If you would like to join us, contact Jason Plotkin. You can reserve your spot on the bus to join us. Please do. We'd love to have you with us. Our sisterhood will be hosting its annual fundraiser Thursday, March 7th at 6 p.m., featuring talented musician and session pianist Alex Navarro, along with our friend Emily Moses, who will be offering a beautiful musical program. Please sign up online or by contacting the sisterhood office. Finally, we are quickly running out of space for our evening with renowned speaker Reverend William Barber, which will be held on Wednesday, March 27th at 7:30. We are about 3/4 of the way full, and it will fill up. So please, if you have not yet RSVP'd, please register online so we can save a seat for you. It will be one to remember, and it will be full. So speaking of things to remember, a note about our Torah portion this week. Our bat mitzvah students can tell us that this week the Torah tells us the memorable and somewhat embarrassing story about what happens when our people in the wilderness are drawn to create a golden calf. You may remember the story. Moses has taken longer than the people expected to come back from the top of Mount Sinai. And while he's gone, the next thing we know, the people have fashioned this golden calf, a glittering idol around which they worship and dance and sing gleefully, "This is your God, O Israel." Reading the story, we wonder how something like this could have happened, such an egregious religious infidelity. How could it happen so soon after the whole people just returned from personally witnessing the revelation, the giving of the 10 Commandments on Sinai? Well, the commentators of the Middle Ages answer that question with a deceptively easy answer. They tell us that the sin of the golden calf stemmed from a simple misunderstanding. That it happened basically because of an honest case of crossed wires when the Israelites made a mistake with their calendars. Here's how they explain it. Moses, you'll remember, told the people that he would be returning from the top of the mountain in 40 days. So the Israelites started counting 40 days from the day Moses left. But Moses started counting from the day he arrived on Mount Sinai 1 day later. What a difference a day makes. Moses would have been back the very next day, but his delay drove the Israelites into such panic that they couldn't go on. They were so terrified at the thought that they'd been left alone, that they'd been abandoned by their leader, that they were willing to undo the entire covenant with God in exchange for a golden idol that they thought would help them feel safe. Their fear was so debilitating that they broke down and could not go on. So the Israelites' most atrocious infidelity, their worst and most insubordinate disobedience of God, came about because they were afraid. Because they were experiencing fear so deep and dark that it utterly undid them. The Israelites experienced their worst failure of faith because they were just too afraid to believe, too afraid to do what is right. So the story of the golden calf isn't at its core a story about idolatry, a story about a faithless people disregarding their connection with what is holy. It is instead a story about people stunted and restrained by fear. And in that way, it's a story about us, too. I'd guess that for most of us, fear of one kind or another is a fairly constant companion. Think about the ways the things that make us frightened motivate our decision-making, whether it's about politics or money or religion, about the ways we spend our money, the way that we spend our time. All of us, in one way or another, feel afraid about the security and the well-being of our families. We might feel afraid about the future of our jobs or our finances. We might be afraid of intimacy and all that it brings, worrying that someone we love deeply will not or cannot love us back. At the same time, we may fear deeply that we will be lonely. We fear illness and we fear death, sometimes for very good reasons. And so when we turn our modern eyes back to the ancient story of our people, we might be able to understand a bit better their craving for a God made out of gold. But with the benefit of the time and perspective that we have, but they didn't, we can see so clearly the truth of their story. They didn't have to be afraid after all. If they could have just taken a deep breath and waited one more day, things would have turned out so differently. And our fears don't need to debilitate us either. The late 18th century spiritual master, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, is known for a quite radical teaching of his in which he suggests that most of human suffering would be eradicated if we could only learn how to stop being afraid of the things we don't need to be afraid of. Now, that's not to say that no fears are real, that there's nothing in the world that ought to make us justifiably anxious. But I want you to take just a second to consider, if you can remember them, one or two or three of the things that have made you feel really afraid in the last year or two. What were the things that kept you up at night with worry and anxiety? And how many of those things really came to pass? Some of them, I'm sure, but I'd guess that the majority of the things that we fear never materialize at all. And when we fear the things we don't need to, we weaken our ability to act with conscience and vision. It may be that the true act of courage is not to suspect that we can eradicate fear, but instead to build within ourselves the ability to do what is right, even though we are afraid. Fear can make us act foolishly or impulsively. It can convince us to overlook our resources and our gifts. It can convince us to hunker down in a defensive crouch, believing that we're all alone in the world, when nothing could be further from the truth. There's a midrash that tells a story about a small child riding on his father's shoulders. And while he's up there, the child sees one of his father's friends, and he calls out, "Excuse me, have you seen my father?" The father then speaks up from below, "You're riding on my shoulders, don't you know where I am?" The story, of course, is offered as a spiritual allegory, reminding us that at the times when we feel afraid and alone, we may wonder where God is or what God is, or if it's God that has made us suffer this way. But the trick is to realize that it's the fear working to convince us to ignore the fact that we are held up by a loving presence that can sustain us. Now, there is a happy ending to the story of the golden calf, but it doesn't come until next week's Torah portion. Sorry. The happy ending goes something like this. After the episode of the golden calf, after the fear and the anger and the grief and the trauma that's been done to the community, after all of that, Moses quietly and subtly offers us a personal example of how we might respond to fear. In the quiet, in the dim aftermath of the golden calf, God places Moses gently in the cleft of a rock and shields Moses' eyes as God passes by, so that Moses can catch a brief, fleeting glimpse of God's departing presence. And the text tells us that after this encounter with God's immediate nearness, Moses' face shone for the rest of his life. This ending, this epilogue to the golden calf story teaches us, I think, that fear and awe are cousins. And if we can do the gentle, subtle work of adjusting our responses to uncertainty so that we can regard the world's mystery not with terror, but with reverence, we can build within ourselves an appreciation of the divine that will carry us forward and hold us up the next time we feel afraid. Mystery need not paralyze us, and uncertainty need not keep us from the holy mission for which we were created. Please don't leave this chapel tonight believing that I've told you that there's nothing to be afraid of. There undoubtedly is in this real and hard world in which we live. But what matters is how we respond to that fear and what hold we allow it to have over us. And sometimes the best response is to do what our Israelite ancestors failed to do in Moses' absence, to turn our eyes to what is eternal, take a deep breath, and wait one more day. Life will always be uncertain. We are limited mortal beings with a severely limited ability to know the future. And we can allow that uncertainty to morph into terror that will keep us captive, or we can respond instead to uncertainty, to doubt, with the knowledge that we are not alone, and with the confidence that we already have all of the tools we need to repair the world. So let this be our charge, and let this be our promise, that when life challenges and confounds us, as it unfailingly will continue to do, we will not be frozen by fear, but instead moved by the awesome potential of uncertainty, moved by the silent presence of God that lifts us on its shoulders to remind us that we can become who we must be. Shabbat Shalom. If you'll join me on page 282, Emanu L'Shabeach is on the bottom of the page, 282. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
The poet Joy Harjo writes, "We all have mulberry trees in the memory yard. They hold the place for skinned knees earned by small braveries, cousins you love who are gone, a father cutting a watermelon in the summer on the porch, and a mother so in love that her heart breaks. It will never be the same. Yet all memory bends to fit. The heart has uncountable rooms." And so as we prepare for Kaddish together, our thoughts turn now to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones and those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. On this Shabbat, the hearts of our congregation go out in sympathy to the families of Mara Greenberg and Morris Schultz, laid to rest in recent days. To their names we add these, the names of those whose yahrzeits fall at this time. Together we remember Sidney Aronson, Joseph Ash, Charles Benjamin, Bernard Bench, Nathan S. Berg, Mark Berman, Boris Berach, Minnie Wise Birnbaum, John Black, Irene Lieberman Bornet, Tom Brahm, Meyer Brockstein, Vicki Briers, Rose Kaplowitz, Josephine Coben, Richard Coffin, Terry Coleman, Betty A. Crown, Sidney Cutler, Leo Dubinsky, Eloise Duval, Jack Ehrlich, Daniel Feinstein, Jack Feldman, L. Bennett Fenberg, Max Finkelstein, Sidney R. Forkosh, Madeline Feldman Foreman, Richard F. Fox, Marion Franklin, Ronald Freed, Ben Friedberger, Annie R. Frieden, Sam M. Frucht, William Gadali, Thelma Gerson, Rosella Glick, Luke Glosserman, Henry Goldberg, Ann Goldman, Meyer Goldovsky, Dora Goldstein, Jake Goldstein, Philip G. Greenberg, Abe Halfant, Rosa Hayden, Peter Hochschild, Ruth Jacobs, Joyce Elaine Jacobs, Yetta Jacobs, Abe Jacobson, Barney Jacobson, Rabbi Louis Josephson, Marjorie Kamen, Chester Kaplan, Charles Keeler, Tito Crone, Rhea Lane, Grace Laves, Fania Lebedev, Mark Leventhal, Harry Levitt, Edith Cobble-Levy, Melvin T. Lewis, Esphira Louie, Alton Lipkin, Martha Klein-Lotman, Salem Harris Lumish, Carol S. Miller, Pauline Barabas Miller, George Neff, Stanley Novak, Dorothy Penner, Nathan Petrovsky, Geraldine S. Phillips, Harry Aaron Rychek, Helen Pasternak Rychek, Sylvia Rice, Becky Rice, Harry Rosenbaum, Isidore Roth, Leah Rubenstein, Lester Riley Ruffin, Richard Melvin Sachs, Pat Lesser Sampson, Mervyn Sandman, Robert Shear, Lenora D. Schwartz, A.J. Schwartzberg, Alfred Selsky, Betty Schulak, Esther Silverblatt, Fanny Snitzer, Sadie Solomon, Joan Spitz, Sylvia P. Strauss, Helen Weisberg, Harvey White, Fanny Wilson, Harris Whittles, Harold Wormser, Mark Zagorin, and Gerald Zlotnick. The memories of all the departed are with us as we turn to page 294 now and rise together for the recitation of Kaddish. Page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chaye echon uv'yom echon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agalau v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'elam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shmaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. I want to invite Allie and Madison back up to the bima, along with Brody, who I think is going to join us for Kiddush and Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho ve'ahava uvratzon Inchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ilu yom tehillah lemikra'ei kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim, kilanu v'chata, v'tanu kidashta, mikol amin, v'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava
we going to close with this evening, Barbara?
We have a very, very special song for Go Texan Day. If you look in your Shabbat handout,
You have to sing with gusto. That's really important.
Ready?
With gusto.
say Shabbat Shalom wherever you roam. 'Cause Shabbat is a real special day. With family and friends before the day ends, we say blessings and to God we pray. All right, sing
All right, sing along. Here we go.
Shabbat Shalom. Here at temple and even at home, we say blessings and pray. It's a real special day. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody!